Good morning, this is Rachel with Infused Meadow, and this morning I'm going to make some, we'll call it American style, slightly spicy breakfast sausage. So in this bowl I have 2 pounds of ground pork. You can choose if you want yours lean or whatever fat content your store or your butcher offers. You pick what you want. So right now all I'm doing is I'm just breaking this up because I don't need it in that, the big clump that it comes in. And then we're going to add our spices to this. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to patty this out. And I've got a pan over there, one of my cookie sheets that's got some parchment paper on it. And I'm going to put this in the freezer so that it can freeze. And then I'm going to put it into vacuum seal portions for when I need it. So, I'm just checking to make sure this is all nice and broken up. And as you can see, I'm not reaching in and, really rough handling it, we'll say. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so I'm going to finish getting this broke up, and then I'm going to rinse my hands. I'll wash them. And then I'll come back and we will add our spice mix in, okay? Okay, so hands are washed and I'm back. We want to go in with 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Doesn't matter which salt you got, just 1.5 teaspoons, okay? Next, we're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne. Now, if you're not one that likes, a bit of a bite, we'll call it, then do 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. We want to go in with 2 teaspoons of sage. Mine's not ground, it's just, it's not a powder, so to speak. So there's 1, and there's 2. I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon, this is powdered, of thyme. So if you have thyme leaves, go in with 1/2 teaspoon. Now because I forgot my 3/4 measure, we're going to do 3/4 teaspoon of black pepper. So this one is the 1/4 and 1/2. That gives me my 3/4. We're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. I like to do kind of heaping because, that's hard to get that one exact unless you want to grind those down. We're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. One-4 teaspoon of onion powder. 1 teaspoon of paprika. If you like a little bit of a smoky flavor, feel free to add the smoked paprika. I personally do not. You want to add 1 tablespoon of firmly packed brown sugar. If you like yours a little sweeter, then do 2 tablespoons. Or you can add honey, or you can add, I know some people like the maple flavoring in theirs, so feel free to add maple. And then all you want to do is mix this up very, very well, and you want to make sure that it looks like everything has been incorporated into your meat. And if you have some of those little fancy machines, you can grind your own pork loin into your ground meat, and then you can mix your seasoning in using a stand mixer if you want, and then you can run it through your machine to put it into casings if that's what you want to do for like links or, anything like that. That is not what I'm doing. And I don't have one of those fancy machines anyways. I have hands and spoons and measuring spoons and forks. That's what I got. And I don't mind it. Alright, so it does not look like I have anything that is not mixed. Trying to make sure though. Always check that bottom, because you may be stirring and yep, everything's mixed in on the top. So just to put this out there, anything that you see me making, I make for my home. Okay. I will not waste food, so I won't make something just to put something out there. Everything that I do is because I use it. Now, like this morning I've already made a batch of biscuits. So this is going to go in the freezer until the weekend, which is generally when my husband and I will have sausage biscuits for breakfast, or he'll have sausage egg biscuits. So that's why, I'm not going to be cooking this morning. I normally only have breakfast on the weekends. During the week, it's normally coffee and busy. So that's just my schedule. It is what it is. Anyway, I'm not going to throw things around on the floor. That's wasteful and it's nasty, and I'm not doing it. So if you're watching anything that I do and you're like, well, she's not really, throwing things around and kicking it, and I'm not doing that, okay? Food is expensive. There's a lot of people out there that can barely put anything on their table. The last thing they really want is to watch you wasting food. I'm just saying, so if that's considered a rant, sorry, it is what it is. Okay. This is nice and incorporated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that. We'll be right back. Okay, so if you have one of those really large, I think it's like a 2 tablespoon ice cream scoop. These are kind of perfect for this so that you can get exact, exact sizes. So I just take it and roll it like I would if I were making meatballs. And then I'm just going to press this flat because that's, I'm doing kind of a biscuit shape, if you will, so that it fits on my biscuits. You shape these however you want. I wouldn't do these too thick, only because if you're going to freeze these, then, unless you think to lay them out the night before in your refrigerator to cook these up the next morning, then they will still cook up frozen, just like any other sausage will. But if you get them too thick, you're going to end up with kind of a mess and grease popping everywhere. And, then you've got a bigger mess to clean up. And so that's just, me telling you that to try to help you out. So what I do is I press with one, and then I come back with my pinky, and I just kind of shape this up a little bit, pinky in the side of my hand, just to make it, either oval, egg shape, round. You can do square if you want. You pick your shape. Now don't get these very thick. Okay? So I'm going to do all these, and then you'll see what I get. Now, the recipe that I've given is for 2 pounds of meat. So if you're doing 1 pound, you'll want to, obviously cut that in half. If you're doing 3 pounds, then you're going to take, that half and then add that in with the 2 pounds. I hope that makes sense. So, where the cayenne is a half a teaspoon, half of that's a fourth. So you would do 3/4 a teaspoon of cayenne if you're doing 3 pounds of meat rather than the 2 pounds of meat. That should make sense. Okay. I'm going to finish this and we'll be back. So before I create the next level, I have gotten 20 so far. And I'm going to put some parchment paper over the top of this. And I will continue doing sausage. I've got a little left. So we're at 20, and I'll let you know what we end up with. We'll be back. And yes, I did wash my hands in between, in case anybody was curious. We'll be back. Okay, so we've ended up with 24 So that's roughly 12 per pound. Now, if you use a smaller scoop, you're going to get more. You use a larger scoop, you're going to get less. That's just obvious. But for those that like to nitpick, there you go. Let's talk what I know of as kitchen safety. Now, when I buy my meat, I literally use it within 24 hours. So that's what I'm doing. We got this yesterday, and this is me, like you saw, I've put my seasonings in, patted it out, and I'm going to put this in the freezer, and that's just fine. It has not been brought home and frozen. If you do bring pork home and you freeze it, and then you want to thaw it to turn it into this, then you need to, as I've learned, okay? Now, if somebody else tells you different, go right ahead. But all the kitchens that I've worked in, both small, large, rich, not, well, we won't say not, but not quite as fancy. We'll say that. Wasn't as fancy. Then if you have frozen meat that you have to thaw, cook it, and then you can freeze it. Okay? Do not take meat that you have brought home, frozen, thawed, mixed anything in just to put it back in to refreeze. That it's just a health food safety. You don't want to spread any kind of germs that, or bacteria, any of that. So if you, like I said, if you've got frozen meat and you do this, then please make sure you cook it. You need to have, I believe it's an internal temperature of at least 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me verify that for you. Yes, 145. So if you want to 145 degrees Fahrenheit, let it cool, put it in your freezer. Once it's nice and frozen, you can vacuum seal these or put them into a freezer bag, and then that way you just pull out what you want. Now I personally have not had this in my freezer for longer than about a month, but I'm almost positive it'll last you. As long as it's airtight and you don't develop ice crystals, then this is good for 6 months to a year. Okay? If you get ice crystals, then you need to use it. If you have an obnoxious amount of ice crystals, then you can try, but basically you've whatever you have is now freezer burned, and what incurs with freezer burned meat is usually not good, and it ends with the meat not taking on much flavor. It's also very chewy. And so I just, I wouldn't do that. At that point, you're almost destined to have to throw it out. But you do you, okay? So, I hope that this helps anyone that was curious on what I call American-style breakfast sausage. I cannot get this where I'm at, and I like my sausage. So, this is what I've worked out that I think tastes almost exactly like the slightly spicy sausage that I used to buy at the store. Obviously, I don't have, your artificial flavors in here. I do not have MSG in here. I don't have any of the other, what I call crap in here. There's no palm oil. There's none of that. You saw exactly what I put in here. So, there you go. And I think that this is delicious. But obviously, if you make it, then you make your own judgment. And I've already told you how, if you don't want the half teaspoon of cayenne because it makes it just a little spicy, then, feel free to dull that down. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I've just realized that I actually should have used some more on the spices because I did 2 pounds of meat, and I'm thinking that I may have done 1 pound of spices, but that's fine. It's easily fixed. All I got to do is put it back in here and then just add my spices. But you see what we have. So there you go. All right, I'm going to fix my little screw up this morning. I was in a hurry to try to get this done because I still have other things to do, and that's on me. That's my fault. Anyway, I hope you make this. And like I said, I accidentally gave you the spice mix for 1. That was my fault. But if you're only doing 1 pound of meat, there you go. So I'm going to fix this, get this in the freezer, and move on to everything else that I've got to do today. So hope you make this. I hope that you like it. I hope I've given enough information to be as helpful as possible. And as always, if you don't, then hey, there is likely other recipes out there. I don't know. I've never gone looking. So if there is, hopefully you find the one that's right for you. And as always, I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.